let me ask a question. If the children, and in many instances their families, are showing up at the school with this body of needs that the school was not originally designed to meet, then might that suggest that there's a need to do some redesign and add to?
Yes. There's a limited amount of human resource to address all of these needs. Teachers love their students. Teachers love to help their students. But sometimes, especially during this school year, teachers on the high school level have 6 classes instead of 5. And so you only have 1 hour prep, and so what you can do for the 190 students that you have, that I have, 190, is make a few phone calls at that planning period, or talk to the child when you can, for those who have issues. Now, there's not a majority of issues. It's as in anything else. You may have 10% of the students that have issues, but when a child has an issue, they stand out. It really stands out in the classroom. So that can disrupt a class when a child has an issue.
So let me, go ahead, Bernadette, and then I want to talk more about what's keeping us from getting to this place today.
One of the things that I definitely want to applaud, I guess, the mayor's office and whoever else came up with the idea, and it was the Truancy Center, the new Truancy Center that was started. That has been so long overdue in this parish. We have lost our focus in East Baton Rouge Parish on what education is supposed to be. We have devalued education and the educators in the process. When you've done that, I think back from when I was attending school, and I'm probably one of the few people in here who has worn many different hats. I've worked for a petrochemical industry for 30-something years. I've taught in the school system. I've worked in the community as the district PTA president for over too many years. But we have devalued, I have seen us devalue the role of educators in the school system. And we have loaded more and more items onto our teachers to do. I think the Truancy Center is going to help with some of the community issues that we have. And unfortunately, Dr. Brandon, I disagree. I think there's more than 10% of our children that come to school with problems. I really do.
So hold on just a second. If you guys will allow me, I want to go outside of the circle one time again. Superintendent Dobar, just want to say thank you for being here. And just if you had any thoughts on what are some of the things that you think get in the way of us really having just this excellent or effective schools?
Thank you, Pastor, and good morning, everyone. Yeah, I just, and that's a challenging question, but I think the biggest thing, and I just sit here, is, to me, I look at it as just like a multi-level problem that we have. So the challenges vary on like the particular area we're looking at. And I look at like our education system right now, our children in particular, like this critical needs patient. And one area we look at is just like the intensive emergency right now of getting them stable.
Yes.
And so I look at part of it is just creating some stability and some sense of normalcy as far as what's for children. But then also we have to think long range. So that could be early childhood. That could be having kids ready to enter kindergarten on task in the next 4 to 5 years and targeting that. So you're catching these kids early. And then also looking at the patient as, well, what about kids that are in high school right now? So you have the different groups of them. And I think one is just the expectation and belief that we can reach each of these groups. But I think the biggest problem is that we face is that many people just really don't believe we can reach and do what we need to do for groups depending on where they are. So if you have middle school kids, the belief is that society has failed our impoverished kids so much that until you fix societal ills, you're not really going to make progress. And by the time you finish theorizing on that, 4 or 5 years passed and those kids are lost. And you hadn't done anything to catch the next cohort of kids that will be middle schoolers 4 or 5 years later. So I think it's the high expectation, really isolating what I would look at the 3 big bucket areas as far as where to target kids and when to target them, and then moving. Like once you lay out what the strategy is, move on it. So I think one is just the lack of belief in not having the high expectations, and then clearly articulating where we need to move and then actually do it.
Thank you. I thank you very much, Superintendent. I'd like to pull one piece of that out and ask, what do you think is, do you agree with the statement that largely there's not a set of high expectations set for kids in many of the schools in North Baton Rouge?
I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with that?
No.
Tell me
And
why.
I'll tell you why. I don't agree with that because of the effort that I see daily, on a daily basis.
So, and allow me to, with all due respect, kind of push back a bit. Might it be that because of the environment that you're in at one of our parish's best schools in Scotlandville High School and its magnet environment, is it possible that it might be different at another setting?
That's a possibility, but I couldn't say that for a fact if I haven't seen that or observed that. So I would not want to demean another facility by not seeing something or collected data that I don't know anything about.
Right.
But I do believe that there have to be some teachers, parents who are willing to invest and promote effectiveness and excellency in their children for the mere fact that they're in public schools. And so, but is there something lacking in the North Baton Rouge area? Yes. It's lacking because facilities.
But is it?
Offerings, course offerings. If we don't have course offerings that can be utilized for a child to look at other options other than post-secondary four-year college, and that's not located on our facility, what are we going to do? Are we going to build a plant where we can bust a child over there for 2 hours a day and come back? I mean, some states and some districts do that.
So let me just ask the rest of you, the statement about a set of low expectations, you agree or disagree? Jackie, and then I'll come to
Well,
you.
I think that, I was sitting here thinking that if there is a significant difference between excellence and effectiveness, then there's a difference between expectation and high standards. And in that, having either one will not guarantee that students' performance will increase if we don't have movement. That's something Superintendent Dobar said, that I agree with. And he talked about, again, same thing that Superintendent Taylor said, about the various components. There are various components, and we have to decide what we want schools to look like, and then come up with an action plan that helps us to get there, realizing that we may not start everything at the same time or with the same intensity. Now, in terms of expectations, I'm sitting here across from the newly homecoming queen for Estruma High School, sitting here saying, I remember when the administration went to the classroom and took the trig books because our kids didn't need that at Estruma High School. Yes, and he looked like me. I remember when that happened. So I know that at every school, they don't have the same expectations.
Tell me, and then I'll come.
I keep thinking the word oppression, and I love some of the things Mr. Dobar said, because we have to be realistic about what's happening now, and I think I see a lot of children that feel oppressed. I see a lot of parents that are oppressed. I feel oppressed as a teacher right now, you know, and that is something that has to be conquered. It has to be broken through. And so the breakthrough begins step by step. What I wish for and dream for and pray for every year is that I'll have this opportunity to just be good at this one thing, that I'll be good at this one thing with this group of children, and we'll make movement. Our slogan in my classroom is that we're going to be smarter every day. At the end of the day, we know something that we didn't know before. And so that's powerful, even if it's one thing. But it's step by step. The oppression I feel is that it's not enough to the outside forces. It's not enough. And as valuable as I see this being to the children, as valuable as I see it being to the parents who say, thank you, Ms. Horner, now my child doesn't hide under the bed when it's time to go to school. Why? Because they believe that they're smart. You know, the idea that we have to trust and believe that these kids can do and will do. And that's the first step. and then you take that and you take your energy and put it there, they'll meet you. They'll meet you with their energy. And so I think step by step is what we need to do.
So allow me to ask a question, and this is a non-scientific polling of everybody in the room. If you believe that in schools in North Baton Rouge there is a culture that just permeates the system that reinforces the idea that every child, regardless of circumstances, can learn, if you believe that that culture exists in the preponderance of the schools in North Baton Rouge, would you raise your hand?
Every school?
Every school. A culture that says every child can learn. If you believe that that culture, in North Baton Rouge, if you believe that exists, we have one hand and an uncertain one.
That
Currently exists. Currently
So what
exists.
you talking about?
Yeah, and I realize I know my off-the-cuff, non-scientific research really bothers those who deal with data on a regular basis, Dr. Brandon, but it was more for point-making than research purposes. And so here, let's go to another place. This is the achievement zone. We have fast-forwarded. It's next year, next school year. There's been a lot of work that's done, and you are showing up for the first day of school. You've been with the security dads for 19 years, so you showed up for the first day of school 19 years. When did your last kid leave school here?
My last kid that left is 28 years old.
So, and you still keep coming back?
I'm still coming back.
So if you're awake and alive, you're coming back next year?
I'll be there.
All right. So coming back the first day of school next year, what would you want the school that you walked into to look like? What would be going on in the classroom, even though you won't be coming back because you're graduating? But if you were, yeah, it's an excellent thing. If you were coming back, what would you want to see?
A more organized setting, a better physical appearance, and smiling teachers at the door, a principal that's out walking, and just a better livelihood, making students feel homely and welcome.
Antonio?
Me personally, if I did come back to Glen Oaks High School next year, with my precision of excellence would be walking on campus, seeing smiling faces, greeting me as I get off the bus, welcome to Glen Oaks, I get on campus, I see other smiling faces, I walk in the classroom, I see it lit up, I see the teacher with her little pen, her little marker, dry erase, writing on the board, this is what we're gonna do today, daily agenda, students paying attention, look straight ahead,
Okay.
That's my...
Somebody else. Dr. Brandon?
I would
First
like-
day.
First day,
Excellence.
excellence.
Effectiveness.
Effectiveness.
What does it look like?
I want the students to get off the bus, schedule in hand, knowing where they're going,
Amen.
with their textbooks with them. I don't want to see them going to an auditorium or gym waiting for a schedule. I want them to come to that school the 2 or 3 weeks before school starts, pick up their textbooks because they have a schedule already. I want parents to stop thinking that they can bring their child to school after Labor Day. We stopped that 20 years ago. We have about 30 to 40 children that just believe. It's their philosophy. School does not start till after Labor Day, and then they show up. I'm behind or something. I need them there, and I need them ready to go in and get started.
In addition,
Go ahead,
in addition to that, there is a permanent teacher in every classroom, not a substitute teacher on the first day of school.
Well, I'm one of those out-of-the-box people, and now Jack and I know this from each other because we've done this at school board meetings. So this is what I see the school year. If this is my school in my district, this is what it's going to look like next year. Every facility is clean, all the equipment's working, all the broken items have been fixed from the previous year or replaced. The air conditioning system is working because we checked it out. The landscape has been maintained because we start school sometimes and it's not. The teacher and the student desk are fixed or they're replaced. The school supply rooms are totally equipped with everything that needs to be done. All the electronic digital equipment is working that's been delivered, installed, checked out, and it is working. The software is working. We're not waiting on the software. The school cafeterias have been transformed. They look like shopping mall food courts in middle and high school. We have a big problem in this community that children do not eat the lunches that we're providing because we're still serving them like it's the 1950s. We need to come out of that box.
You agree with that, huh?
The students, the faculty, the administrative faculty is almost worn out because they've been working all summer. So they're happy to see the kids so they can now start teaching in that corrective environment. The schedules are already prepared, and they include a visual or performing arts or life skill class for every student in middle and high school. They're mentors to greet the students because every child needs a mentor. The students arrive with their parents, and they come not only on school buses and in cars, but on public transportation. Does somebody remember when Baton Rouge students rode public transit to school? Okay. They go to a morning convocation and proceed to their classrooms where the teachers all greet them with smiles because all their supplies are there. The classrooms are all brightly decorated, encouraging creative, higher order thinking skills. And the staff is ready to teach and reach on the first day of school.
I would go back to high school.
That's right.
I would go back for that.
The only other thing that I would like to add to what has already been said, because I agree with everything that's already been said, is that the focus would be on the students' individualized progress, not on high-stakes testing. That teachers and students would not fear that this had to be the focus for fear of failure or fear of loss of jobs. And those students who, for example, maybe failed in the high-stakes, well, let me back up, that high-stakes testing would not be the predominant item of determining whether or not a child moved forward or graduated.
Amen.
And for those students who have otherwise academically achieved that perhaps did not pass these high-stakes testing, that there would be some alternative method or program of assistance to move them forward. Testing only determines our performance on a given day, and so on a given day it could change. And that the students would have resources that were all of the resources that were needed, or to the extent possible, the resources that are needed to have an environment that is conducive to learning, to have an opportunity to learn, and that the expectation would not rest just with the teacher, but with the parent and with the student.
Thank you, Tony, and then I'm gonna go outside the circle once again.
As being a student, again, I wholeheartedly agree. I'm gonna just be honest with you guys. I keep it 100% real. I'm not a good test taker. I'm not, by the grace of God and God alone. I have made it this far. But the GED testing and all these other tests, I just don't do good on tests. My grades stay good because I do all my work. I'm focused, I pay attention in class. But when it comes down to a test, I'm like, man, what that was? So, you know, I wholeheartedly agree. The test should not determine whether you go forward. It should be by that student's progress. That student was at A right here, now that student's way at B. Or that student's from A, now he's to Z.
Because whether it is accurate or not, or whether it is real or not, someone once remarked that, perceptions are true, they're real to people. And so when I asked the question about did we have an environment that had high expectations where every kid could learn, yours was the only hand that went up. And so that would suggest to me that at least the perception of many is that that's not the case. And that the perception of most of the folks in the room is that there are challenges. We've heard a number of things listed here. And so the question that I want to ask, and don't everybody jump in at the same time, is who's responsible for fixing it? Who? What did you say, brother?
Everybody.
Everybody is responsible. So let's begin to unpack who everybody happens to be. Who is everybody?
Okay, I'm going to suggest, and this is what I believe, that the persons responsible are the principal and the leadership team, and they engage everybody else.
So let
to
me
make
stop
it
you.
happen.
So let me stop you. And so your suggestion, once again, if we go back to where we started, this strong leader.
The strong
leader at the school. And so the strong leader at the school has an important role in helping to turn things around.
Yes.
Who else other than the school leader? Who else is responsible?
I think that the people in the general community, and not just the parents who have children in public schools.
Okay, so let me stop you, and I'm gonna come back to you. My dear friend Broad Baggert with Together Baton Rouge, you certainly, along with my dear friend Edgar, who's been riding with us, you guys have been very active in stimulating community work as it relates to the public transit. So there's at least a hope in our future of kids being able to ride public transit to school. So what's the role of the community in helping to address some of these issues, in your opinion?
It strikes me that in a lot of our public
Stand up
systems,
for us, bro.
in a lot of our public systems, we have a similar dynamic, which is, on the one hand, how do you do the immediate to stabilize the system? On the other hand, how do you not fail to recognize that there's a legacy there and a history there, and the extent to which adults trust each other, and poor parents and middle-class parents trust each other enough to send their kids to the same school, and white parents and black parents trust each other enough to send their kids to the same school, matters even in areas that are not diverse geographically, because if that doesn't happen, you see the same patterns of exclusivity, of creaming, of a concentration in one area, and the loss of political support. So I think part of what needs to happen is what started to happen in the transit campaign is developing a different kind of trust across those lines that stand for public education enough to send their kids to public schools together with people who they often don't know and haven't learned to trust in the past.
You've been coming, thank you, Broad. You've been coming to schools 19 years, Glen Oaks
Yes.
Security Dads.
Right.
Wonderful group of men who give of themselves. What would you say to other folks in the community who, like you, don't even have a kid in the school system at this point?
I would say just take your gloves off and just pitch in, bare hand, because there's a need and somebody has to take care of it. And it's like cancer, it just doesn't go away. Somebody has to treat it, and it's all of our job to treat it.
So the school leader, the community broadly, who else has a job in this?
And certainly the parents.
The parents.
The parents.
And so what should, you were a parent advocate, a PTA leader, you work with, what is it that parents need to know and do that's, in your opinion, not happening right now?
Parents need to be informed. I'll refer back to an earlier statement that I said that parents need a lot of training themselves. Our children who are in school now, a lot of them, their parents have not finished their own education. And the system, whatever the systems collectively be, have not encouraged them to finish their own education. So it is hard for a child to go home at night and ask their mother to help them read when the mother herself can barely read. The mother's actually functioning on probably a 5th grade level. I know that we have high schools that we have freshmen entering in them where the high school students are reading on 5th, 6th grade level. That they're not being encouraged at home, but we need to get a different concept of what the school really is. The school is really a mini community, and it needs to open up to the community. If we find parents, or if we see children struggling, we need to know more about those children's lives. That's that one-on-one teacher knowing each individual child that they actually work with. And I know that's a big task to ask, so that we can reach back into the community and offer those parents some additional training to help them move on, to get more education so that they can help us. And the school leader needs to invite those parents in. They need
So,
somebody.
so we have school leaders, we have the community, the organized community, individual parts of the community, we have parents. Who else has a role in helping to
This is just a small thing to say, but we started off with the school leader. That school leader reports to somebody.
Yes, yes.
That school leader's gonna need to have the flexibility to do some things without being encroached upon.